Let's just start with this, man. We were fired up to get Decker, redone, get him extended. He's a pivotal piece of what we've been able to do here in the turnaround, and so, man, real fired up for him and his family, and it's good to have him here for the extended future. Good first day in pads. Certainly wasn't perfect. Inevitably what happens is guys get, you get the man across from you and it's full go, full tilt, and all the fundamentals you learned, you just throw them by the wayside, and that happens with some players. So we just got to clean that up, back them up here. Let's get back to what we do fundamentally and get better. But, man, the intensity was beautiful. There was an urgency, and I would expect it to step up today, another notch, and it'll be a more aggressive day, a little longer, and guys to really go out there and compete. So, questions?
Taylor said you guys talked man-to-man at OTAs about the contract. I don't know how many times that's happened in your career, but is it a unique situation, and how special is that the trust is there between the two of you?
No, it's not. Look, I've told those guys from day one, man, if something like that is bothering you, sir, you can always, as you know, Brad and myself, you come talk to us, and we will tell you what our mindset is, where we're at, what we're thinking. We're not going to shy away from that. So we've told everybody that. And so, Decker came up in the spring and we talked about it. That was on his mind, and so I told him, listen, Brad and I, you're next. And this will come. Just let's give it a minute here. He's coming off of surgery. Let's just make sure you're good. We'll get you out there moving around in July, and all's good, and we'll go. And that's what happened. So I appreciate him trusting us, but all our guys know that, man. You got something on your mind, come up and talk. We can talk one-on-one, and I'll give you the straight up. Man, I remember what it was like as a player. And I was lied to at one point, and I will never do that to a player. So even if it's going to hurt a little bit, I want them to know the truth.
You touched on it there maybe a little bit. We know a lot about the influences, I guess, as you're coaching, but the open door policy, is that something you had, or is it more a reaction to the negative experience?
Well, I think you learn all these things as you go. I just think I know that had a bearing on that had a bearing on me a little bit, and that's one of those things that, once you realize you're you get in a position of, to where you're in that position to have decisions, to make decisions, you remember it. So I think, that's always been important. I would say, it probably had a big bearing on the policy that we have here. And Brad is absolutely the same way. He knows we don't shy away from those things. We're going to tell you what we feel. We try not, as much as we can. You can't divulge everything, but man, we want to be honest and upfront and not dance around things.
One of the big offseason stories was the banning of the hip drop tackle. I'm just curious, as you guys put the pads on, how much emphasis are you placing against that technique and teaching against it?
Yeah, so obviously it was, and they've got, on the league has sent out a video, and of course it's the worst of the worst, these things, the ones that they show on there. And so our guys know it. We talked about it in the spring. We know that, you got to get your head across. You got to continue to run your feet. And so, absolutely it's something that we've talked about, that, we're not teaching that. It is a point of emphasis. And look, the only way to avoid it is to work on tackling. You have to work on some of these things, tackling. So, because it's not fair to your guys if you don't. You just react, and you're back into whatever it takes to get the guy down. So, listen, this league's always been about adjusting. This is a new rule. Our guys will adjust, and then we'll be just fine.
What is the fine line there? I know you did some open field kind of tackling drills and the intensity. What's the fine line between getting that work, but keeping guys fresh, keeping guys healthy? Is that something you always battle with?
You always battle with it. It's but I think there's what happens is, unless you do some of those things, I just go back to this. All right, whether you go pads, you don't go pads, you go live, you don't, you can always work on blocking. You can always work on releases. You can work on catching the ball. You can work on separation. You can work on run blocking, protection. Quarterbacks can throw coverage. You cannot work on you don't ever work on tackling unless you work on tackling, getting somebody to the ground. So that's one. But two is also when you go live, the intensity goes way up. The exertion it puts on the body is totally different. And your players need that because they have to do that on Sunday for 70 plays. And so I don't want that to be the first time. There's going to be some of these guys we don't play in the preseason. So I don't want this heavy exertion, all this torque through their body to be the first time 70 plays on Sunday. They need to get it now on grass. So that's another reason why we do it. But it is always a fine line. There's nothing easy about it. But I just feel like it's what's best for our guys and for our team.
You're old enough to have gone through two-a-days. The NFL used to be a different league, and even in college, the Junction Boys, all that stuff. Has the NFL lost anything, you think, without that intensity, or have you guys gained something by limiting how much, whatever it could be, in injury, and what do you think? Has it gotten less tough?
No, look, I think the two-a-day, I think we have gained. I do. Listen, the days of the two-a-days, at some point in this camp, I'm going to put up the old two-a-day schedule so our players can see it, and the two scripts for the practices, but there again, they don't know what that is either. They don't know the reality of it. They know what we're in right now, and so everything is relative. But yeah, I mean, man, going full pads twice a day. The first practice is 3 hours, and the second one you back way down and go 2.5 hours, and If you're with Coach Parcells, you're real lucky. He'll take the pants off in the afternoon. You're still in shoulder pads, and it's still 2.5 hours. But pants are off, guys. And that was like, what a treat. You can just slip the shorts on with the shoulder pads, and here we go, man, 9-on-7. But that was life, right? And so I think we are better for it, man. The body, this game has changed so much, and the athletes are so much different, and I just think that, they're geared so much higher now than it was back then. If everything felt like a marathon, and the game was so much more in a box and downhill, run game, power, two back, heavy personnel. There was just so much more of that. And then once kind of the spread offenses came in, the athletes changed. And so I think this is a good thing where we're at. The only thing that I wish, man, let's try not to tinker with the rules of the game. I like that we're trying to take care of the players, and the body doesn't need that type of beating. But, man, the more we start dialing back on, we still playing pads. The game's still in pads. So, I just hate to lose the element of what made the game the game. That's all. But, we're going to try to squeeze everything out of it we can. That's how we play football here.
You're too young for this, but Frank Bush used to allow live hitting on the quarterbacks with the more.
Yeah, that was no, but I'm not going to comment on that.
How long does it take the fundamentals to return up the initial excitement going live in full pads?
Oh well, look, I would expect it's going to be much better today. And that's what happens is inevitably, you're just out there, man, trying to win, and you don't think about anything else. You're just trying to win, and so that's what last night was. You watch the tape, you go over it, man. Our coaches are on it, like, hey, man, we just talked about this. Look at your footwork, look at your hand placement, and so that was an emphasis last night, and I expect it to be much better today. So it'll come pretty quick, especially with the guys that are going to grow and. They're going to take that next step, The guys who can't adjust to that are probably not going to be here. They're not going to make the roster. And they know that.
Was there anybody that you saw that really stepped out? I know you said that's when you really see guys separate themselves from roster spots. Was there anybody that leapt out at you once they put the pads on yesterday?
Parker Hess. Yeah, he did some things. Which, quite frankly, I don't know if I'm that surprised. That's kind of his game, I mean, some of these guys, you run all these pass-specific drills and you're not in pads, and but that's kind of more his game, too. But I would say, yeah, he showed up. He showed up.
John, is there?
Sorry. Not to magnify one spot, but yesterday was your first time to see your top 2 draft picks in pads for the first time. Physical positions, what did you make of Rakestraw and Terrion?
Yeah, I like the first day of work for both of them. You know what I love? That both of those guys are competitive. They are competitive guys, man. They don't mess around for rookies, and they're trying to win the rep, and they're trying to get better, and they're both athletic, and so you feel like, okay, there again, first day, it's not too big for them. You know, they were ready for the challenge of it. Now, do they have a lot of work? Yeah, they do. But so it was very encouraging.
With DJ Reader not being around right now, more work is available for Bradrick Martin. Just wondering through the first week what your assessment has been of his game.
Yeah, look, I would say it's been up and down, up and down. You know, some of these things we've talked about Bradrick cleaning up a little bit. It is staying more square. You're starting to see it. And then once he gets square, now he loses some of his power because he's so focused on being square, then it's, you know, he forgets to anchor or his footwork gets out of whack. So it's just, listen, it's a work in progress, and it's up and down right now. But the kid is working at it, and Terrell's on him, and I would anticipate he's going to continue to grow. And look, right now Pecco is rolling in there, and Pecco's a veteran guy, and we know exactly what he is, and he's just steady, reliable type guy, man. Does his job, and guys trust him. And I know it's early, but you know he's got somebody pushing him there.
Stephon Gilmore, the guy who stuck out last training camp, obviously stuck on the roster, but didn't carve out a role necessarily. Was he one of those guys that toward the end of last year was close, and have you seen him take a year or two jump so far?
I would say, man, you know, Gilmore's got ability, and I still feel like he needs a whole nother notch. He can take a whole nother notch up, you know. He's got natural instincts. He's pretty competitive, cover skills, and so he's one of those guys. Look, he's worked at it, but I expect more out of him. I just do, because I think he's an instinctive player. So we need him to take a big jump this training camp. And I would say to this point, after these 5 days, he's done a good job.
Super quick one, Dan. Don't expect you to divulge specifics, but Christian Mahogany has been out with the illness for a bit. Can you just speak to the prognosis? I mean, is this something you're concerned about long term, or is it looking like maybe he'll be back relatively shortly?
Yeah, really, I can't. I don't know. Here's what you do know is that anytime a rookie's missed, you know, here we go, we're going on practice 6 here, and he's still not here. Yes, you get concerned with, you know, the development of the player, because they need everything. I mean, you miss 1 day as a rookie, and that's tough to recover from, because you don't have 2-a-days anymore. Where you know, it's like, but so. I don't want to say we're concerned, and it's a real thing, you know, this illness. And so it really is a day by day. We have virtually checked him in, so he's virtually in meetings and things of that nature. But man, when we know he's ready to get here and be a part of what we're doing, man, believe us, we'll get him here as fast as possible. But as of right now, yeah, we have to assume we don't have him.